What is wrong with our country today is that we are no longer putting up the building according to the blueprints. Our nation was designed to be a free nation under God, but we have lost our way. Our nation is increasingly worshiping Washington rather than the Creator, and now we are paying the price. Every part of our country untouched by government is going great. Look at our iPhones, our iPads, everything. In fact, we were talking just a moment ago in the back as you were looking at the video of the destruction of the fires and the personal lives that have been displaced as a result, and some even in mourning as they have death now. And the first thought came to my mind when we were thinking about how to take materials out of your home or what you would grab first. I started thinking about the power of those little iPads we have, and now we can put absolutely everything in there, so we only have one thing to grab next to our lipstick. And our little grandbaby pictures can be on there too, so a couple of things, that's all we need, okay, and we'll be just fine. Where we see innovation and productivity untouched by government, things are going fine. Our problem is where we have let government take over our lives. The federal government now takes 25% of the American economy. Out-of-control debt, enslavement to government, and broken families is no formula for a great country. But the good news is that we can change. But where we have serious challenges, there needs to be serious work done. And so I'm going to talk about one aspect of the big problem, and that is the challenge with minorities, blacks and Hispanics. Getting our message of freedom into our hard-hit communities should be at the top of the list of priorities for conservatives. This country is becoming less and less white. And liberalism is the only message being sold into our minority communities for the last 50 years. Conservatives are not going to be able to move this nation toward building according to our constitutional blueprints without doing a better job with blacks and Latinos. When Reagan was elected president, 88% of the electorate was white. In 2008, 74% of the electorate was white. And this trend is continuing. And in fact, I just saw recently the data for the replacement rates. This should be alarming to you, and I'm an optimist, but this is alarming to you. That replacement rate, how many children you have to replace yourself as a people group. The replacement rate is 2.1. Latinos are at 2.4, blacks are at 2.1, and whites are at 1.7. If we are going to save this great country of ours, we've got to get buy-in to the communities that don't understand American exceptionalism and why we believe what we believe. And without blacks and Hispanics understanding Americanism, it is going to get harder and harder to elect Republicans. And without blacks and Latinos or Hispanics, or whatever political term you want to put on this vast people group that are being political pundits and used by the left to try to make goody points to expand government, it will be harder for Republicans that do get elected to do the reforms that need to get done, the reforms that our nation needs. The good news is that these reforms that we talk about, these are ideas that are necessary in these hard-hit communities. Low-income Americans need them more than anyone else. And in fact, when I had an opportunity to talk to some of the students that are at this beautiful school and as well are considering coming in a little bit yesterday, I told them that you hold your head high when people say that you're not about social justice, because we are social justice. Because when you look at the data about who Republicans are, those in the white community that attend church on a regular basis consider themselves Republican. And people that go to church on a regular basis are the most benevolent in our society. Over and above the $400 billion that the government forces out of their pocket to pay for these poverty programs, they give away another $300 billion in this country alone, and then another $300 billion internationally. We are social justice. It is those that are going to church on a regular basis. It's those that go to church on a regular basis that volunteer and fund our homeless shelters and our maternity homes and our crisis pregnancy centers. They're the ones in the trenches, the decent people in quiet communities serving their God. And they're the ones under attack today. And that's the reason that we fight, and we will continue to fight. But we are needing to get buy-in from our Latino and black brethren, because they need our help most to get their children out of these cesspools we call public schools, where they are trapped. They're the ones that need to be able to build wealth by funding private retirement accounts instead of paying payroll taxes. And they need even more than many even in this room that are just repulsed by the notion of Obamacare. When you think about our hard-hit and poor communities, they already have the heavy hand of government controlling their health care, 100%. And in fact, I had opportunity one time to go on that show, The View, to do one thing, which was to ask Michael Moore one question about his movie, Sicko. Why did he go to Cuba and Canada to see socialized medicine? He could have gone to Compton or Camden. You can go to any inner city in this country and see what happens when the government controls health care. These folks need, even more so than middle America, the higher quality, lower cost health care that can only be made available in a market-based environment. But right now, blacks and Hispanics only hear from liberals. Left-wing organizations get hundreds of millions of dollars in funding from left-wing foundations and unprincipled American corporations to pump left-wing lies into these communities. Their children are indoctrinated in these government-controlled schools, and they get their news from ABC, NBC, CBS, Univision, and MSNBC. Americans who care about the future of this great country of ours that we are losing must understand that we've got to start making the investments necessary to get the truth about freedom into these minority communities. I'm not telling you this is going to be simple, but I am telling you that the work needs to be done and we can make progress. There's no question in my mind that we can make a difference. And in fact, blacks are already showing signs that they know something is wrong. Our phones in my organization are jumping off the hook as record numbers of African-American pastors all over this country had an eye-opener when Barack Obama came out of the closet and told them finally that he is in support of homosexual marriage, as if it was some secret anyway. But other signs that others are seeing that there's something wrong. It's not about the ethnicity of a president, but it's about the worldview of an individual, and that individual then being placed in a position of serving the people. Black flight is one of those signs. The new 2010 census boldly declares and reveals to us that blacks are fleeing these big blue union cities and going to red states in droves. 17% drop in New York City and Chicago, 25% drop in Detroit. Now, of course, this increased my workload because I got to get in these red states and make sure they understand why these states are working, because they're right to work and right to carry, and we want to keep it that way. Another sign of encouragement, in particular that community that has been the case study for what doesn't work in liberalism. When we look into what has happened over the last 50 years to this family, once you've collapsed family, you've set education in ruin and you've collapsed the entire community, and now determined that that community needs to depend 100% on government. This is what we don't want for the rest of the nation, and we want the black community freed from this heavy hand of government. And what we're seeing are little signs, including in black polling. In 2008, 96% of blacks voted for Barack Obama. In July 2011, his black approval rating was 85%. In February 2012, according to Gallup, his black approval rating was 79%. Not only are blacks for the first time in 50 years trending away from these big government promises, record numbers are now fighting against abortion and for school choice. I'm not making any predictions what's going to happen in the voting booth in November, but I do know one thing: the great work that needs to occur in this country for the future of this country, starting January, we're going to have buy-in from minority communities. And I have to remind people all the time, not only did a Democrat president sign welfare reform into law, we also got school choice in the DC school choice program with Democrats in control of Congress. Not that I want them there, but if they are there, we can still force our public opinion to shape public policy so that we'll move public behavior to be consistent with the founding of this great country. Think about your children and your grandchildren. What kind of country are they going to be living in if we don't fight to push back darkness? You know, I have a new resolve because I had my Mr. James. A lot of people know about my little Mr. James because God was just so good to me. I believe the lie of the left so hook, line, and sinker that it wasn't until after the 4th time I went into one of their so-called safe, legal, rare abortion clinics that I had a gut instinct way down deep inside that there must be something wrong with killing your offspring. Maybe I ought to stop going there. And I didn't go there the next time. I had a beautiful little child. That's the one I ended up on welfare with. God transitioned me out. She married young, and now she's having grandchildren for me. You talk about graciousness and mercy from the God above. Have mercy on all of our souls, Lord. But she gave me my little Mr. James. And a lot of people know about my little Mr. James, who's 6.5 now. Mr. James, though, when he was 2, I taught him how to color on his parents' wall. And when he was 4, I told him that his daddy, was wrong that he needed a bedtime. That little kids, cute as he is, don't need bedtimes. And he went and told his dad. Well, now that he's 6, though, he has to go to Catholic school so he could learn structure and order. But they just recently had my little Naomi. She's 9 weeks. Miss Naomi Princess, who I gave a Neiman Marcus card and sent the bill to her parents' house. So my resolve is more than just professional and trying to rescue a people that had such a legacy in this country, to move itself forward, to ask itself deeper questions. Why are we here with the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow? So that they will be the future of tomorrow in America, to go out and maybe save the rest of the world, including all of the nations of Africa. It's bigger than that for me now. I've got grandchildren. And we're at a critical crossroads in this country. Similar to in the 1850s, we can't go on anymore like this. We're right at that point where Abraham Lincoln, during that dark hour before, when we had a big moral question on the table, reached into the scripture. And he said, in quoting the Lord Jesus Christ himself, "A house divided against itself can't stand." And he came up out of that and said, I don't expect the union to resolve, but I do expect that we can't go on like this, half free and half slave. We're going to be one or the other. We can no longer be both. And that's where we are in this great country of ours, and that's the question in front of us today. We can't keep going like we're going right now. We're exactly split down the middle as a nation. We're going to either be biblical and free, or we're going to be secular and socialist, and that's what's in front of us. So it's time for us to lift up our hearts, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for us to remain steadfast and immovable, to always abound in the work of the Lord. Because in this great country of ours, we still have the opportunity to change course. Because in America, we still hire leadership. In America, we battle in the voting booth. And in America, we have a constitutional right to representative government, and we, the people, still get to decide who those representatives will be. Thank you.